Hi everybody, welcome back to Between the Lines. My name's Julian, I'm an obsessive reader and used book collector, and I went over my book budget yet again. So I thought that maybe this month, I'd stick to my budget. The last couple months I've gone over, and you know what, yet again, I have gone over the budget. But the reasons why will be made abundantly clear when I get to it, so let's just get into the books. Alright, so the first books I'm going to talk about, I'll talk about both of these at the same time since they're part of the same series, but I've had trouble finding these at used bookstores. I've only found one other book from this series at a store, and it was nice to pick these up as it was pretty timely. The movie just came out and people are talking a lot about it. So in this haul, I was lucky to find two books from the Dune series, that being Children of Dune, book 3 in the series, and Heretics of Dune being book 5. These books have been notoriously hard for me to find in used bookstores. There's only one other instance where I found a book from the Dune series, that being Dune Messiah. So that means I only need to find book 4, which is God Emperor of Dune, and then the last book, Chapter House Dune. I'm not really concerned with reading the other books written after the author's death. I just want to read the main series. I read Dune a few years ago and really enjoyed it. It was such a good book, and that world was so rich and expansive. And now with the movie having come out and a lot of hype surrounding the series again, I think I will get back into the books. I just started the Wheel of Time though, so I probably won't get into these anytime soon. I don't want too many huge series kind of, getting all confused in my head. So I think I'll wait until I find the remaining books, and I would like to find them in this used format. I really like the covers that I've been able to find so far. Although worst case scenario, I could buy them retail. The paperbacks are pretty cheap. I think they're only like 13 or 15 bucks. I'll get to Dune eventually, but I'm happy to just kind of leave them on the back burner for now while I find the last two books. Next, we have Robots and Empire by Isaac Asimov. So this is the fourth and last book in the Robot series that I've been collecting. I found the first 3 over a few different visits to used bookstores and thrift stores. And this is the series that is sort of a follow-up to I, Robot. That was a book that I didn't expect to love as much as I do. It was so great, and I had read Asimov before I read Foundation. It wasn't necessarily mind-blowing, but it was pretty cool, and I wanted to read more of his works. And I learned that this series had a detective mystery element to it, and that being one of my favorite genres mixed with this robot universe that I was a fan of now, I really wanted to get into them. And it took a little while for me to find the 4 books in the series, but now that the series is complete, I will get into them hopefully in 2022. And they've got some pretty dope Michael Whelan covers. He's the artist who drew a lot of stuff for The Dark Tower. He does the Stormlight covers, and I think he did the cover for the last Wheel of Time book as well. I'm a fan of his work, and now that I have these nice beautiful covers sitting on my shelf, I can rest a little easy knowing another series is complete and in my possession. Next, we have The Jackal of Nar by John Marco. So The Jackal of Nar and the series it's in, I believe it's called Tyrants and Kings, is a series I had never heard of before until very recently. I was watching one of Bryce's videos from Shelf Centered, and he was talking about how great this author is and how good of a series this was. So I added it to my TBR, and then luckily enough, the next time I went to a used bookstore, I found this copy of The Jackal of Nar there, and totally wasn't expecting it. Those are the best finds, honestly. Sometimes you go to a used bookstore looking for something specific, and you get disappointed when it's not there because it's a gamble. It's not like a retail store that stocks what's popular. And I assume I'm gonna have a lot of trouble finding books 2 and 3 in this series. They're not necessarily the most well-known or popular books or easily available to find. I'm sure I can find the ebooks somewhere, but I checked and I don't believe the retail store near my house has any of these, so I'll be willing to wait to see if I can pick up any more at the used bookstores. And I would really like to get more of these versions. The covers are absolutely gorgeous. I couldn't believe how detailed this cover was and so beautiful. That's something I really enjoy about buying the used books, is these old painterly covers of fantasy and science fiction. I do appreciate a lot of the more kind of abstract or minimalist styles that I see on some modern books, but to me, nothing can beat that old school fantasy sci-fi cover art. I'm not too sure what these books are about. I only know as much as Bryce talked about in his video, but I don't like to know too much about what I'm gonna get into with this series. I wish I knew a bit less about the Wheel of Time going into it as I'm reading the first book now. But considering the hype from the show that's happening, you know, by cultural osmosis, I've learned, you know, more than I should know at this point in the series. So with this, I think I won't look too much into it and just enjoy the ride when I get to the books. And now we come to the last book. Like I said earlier, I didn't buy too many in this haul, but because of this final book, I went over my budget, but it was totally worth the buy. At this used bookstore, I found a first edition hardcover copy of New Spring, the Wheel of Time prequel. So New Spring is one of the 2 remaining Wheel of Time books I hadn't collected until I found this. I thought that maybe I'd have to order New Spring maybe online from a used book dealer or from out of the country or something and, you know, pay the fees, but I needed to have the book and to match the set that I have. I've been collecting the used copies of the entire series. But imagine my surprise when I find a very beautiful and very good condition used copy of New Spring, and then to find out it was a first edition as well. When I went up to the counter to pay for it, the bookstore owner actually complimented on how good of a find this was, so I was thrilled to find this, and it was a bit pricier, more than your typical used book because it was a hardcover and a first edition. I know it's not that old of a book. I believe New Spring came out in the early 2000s, but I was still thrilled to find this nonetheless and add it to my collection. So my Wheel of Time series is nearly complete. I only have A Memory of Light left. I've seen some people selling it online, but you know, I'm in no rush to buy it right now. It's gonna be a bit pricier than maybe I paid for the paperback ones in the earlier parts of the series, but I'm willing to hold out until I find that version and then complete my series. And it makes me kind of sad to think that I won't have any more to hunt for, but you know, that row on my bookshelf out in the living room is looking really great. And now that I'm actually starting the series and very hooked on book 1, I feel a bit more settled and accomplished and ready to take on the rest of the series. So that's it for this monthly book haul. I know I didn't grab too many books, but I hope that the ones I did get maybe pique your interest and that, you know, I proved that my spending a little bit over my budget was worth it for that copy of New Spring. So in the comments, let me know if you've read any of these books and whether you like them, or maybe if you didn't. Also, let me know if you've picked up any good books recently from used bookstores or just regular retail, or if you've picked up any indie books. Indie books is something I'm trying to get into more. I'm thinking for one of my next couple book hauls, I'm gonna do an indie haul. In starting my booktube channel, I've been more exposed to indie and self-published books and have a bunch on my wish list. So I think instead of doing a used one next month or the month after, I'll order a bunch and discuss them there, because, you know, being part of this community now, I want to give back to indie authors and self-published authors because we're all part of the same community, and, you know, giving back is always something good to do. My TBR for the rest of the year is pretty packed, but I would like to get into starting to read those soon as well, maybe in the beginning of the year. Alright, so that's it. Remember to do all the YouTube stuff like liking and subscribing, leaving a comment. Thank you for watching. Please remember to support your local library, and I'll see you next time.